If you watch any of my videos, you know I love to explore new tools, including AI technology. But how is AI impacting us as freelancers and small business owners? In this video, I talk with mindset coach Danny Evergreen and brand designer Laura Robinson. We discuss how we use AI in our businesses, what effects it's had on us being in the creative industries, and how we see it shaping our businesses moving forward. Please do join in the conversation and leave your own thoughts in the comments below. I'm Laura Bean, and this is Creative Little World.
So start with, for both of you really, do you use AI tools already? And if so, what do you use and how have you found it? Laura, do you want to kick us off?
So as a brand designer, AI is huge in my industry at the moment. Really big topic. Lots of people are talking about it. Yes, I have used it. I do use it. I use it daily. So we're using like ChatGPT. I'm using like the Photoshop. I'm making mock-ups using AI. Do I think it's a good thing? Yes, in some ways, and no, in a lot of ways. One of the biggest concerns for me is imagery, is that I don't think we're going to be able to trust what we see from now on, because so many images now are made and created. The biggest worry for me is taking like my image, because obviously we're putting it out on social media, we're putting our own faces out there, our own voices out there, is now how are we going to control that somebody isn't going to start using that and generating things that are not our core values, are using our identities, are using our images. So that's the biggest hot spot for me. But actually AI itself, I do believe if we don't start embracing it, you're kind of going to get left behind. I think you're going to have to use the tools that help grow your business, but that creativity for me is never going to be taken over by AI. Yeah. That personal touch is never going to change, but the actual tools and the way it can help me, and maybe I can work quicker, and being dyslexic, it helps me with my writing and my spelling, but I don't think it's going to take away the personal values and the personality. So having a copywriter to write my copy and to use my personality and use my tone of voice, I don't think it's ever going to take that away. But I do think it's going to help maybe people that can't afford a copywriter to start out with. I'm scared of it in some ways. I'm frightened. I watched Terminator. I've watched what happens.
Yeah.
So it is a frightening thing for me. So learning, how to handle it. And I think we've got to be really careful how we handle AI. What do you think, Danny? Have you come across it in your business? Have you used it?
Yeah, I use it a little bit, kind of for admin tasks and marketing tasks. Things like being able to quickly remove the background from a photo or quickly change the color of a t-shirt or something like that is really useful to make things kind of in line with my brand. I don't think I use AI probably anywhere near its full capabilities. And in my industry, it's probably less so. I certainly could use it more for things like writing copy, but I kind of like to write it myself. I kind of like that authentic nature. And also, I think if you're sharing something that's very, personal, or a personal story or something you've done with your clients, you can't really, I feel like it would be just as much work to try and put that through AI as might as well just write it myself. I've used it a few times to come up with like topics, so like a list of ideas to then write about on a topic, rather than writing a piece for me. But yeah, I think for me, it's less of a risk in terms of coaching. I think there's definitely elements of AI being used in coaching and writing a lot of stuff. But I think, again, like you said, you can't ever replace that authentic voice and that personal thing. And a lot of the work I do is working with people, and it's about being there and supporting them and feeling like there's someone that's actually listening to you, and you can't replace that human connection. But certainly from like a marketing and admin point of view, there's some really useful tools. And I think it's like anything, it's about understanding it, because a lot of fear comes around not understanding things. So understanding kind of what things are and knowing what can work for you and using the things that work for you, but not feeling like you have to be, on top of everything, and knowing where it doesn't work for you and actually where you don't need to kind of be involved, because it's very easy when especially something new kind of comes out and you feel like, oh, I should be doing that, I need to be on board with it. Actually, you know, would it be useful for you or not? Maybe it wouldn't. Is it something that's a priority for you right now in your business? For some people, yeah. Others, it might not be that relevant yet.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I'm a bit like both of you. I use, you know, sort of ChatGPT, or I've played with Gemini. Because I'm the type of person, I like playing with tools. A lot of my YouTube videos are me exploring things. So AI gives me that kind of excitement for what's there, what I can play with and try out. From a copywriter and content writer point of view, I think the danger is that a lot of people I've seen are just copying and pasting what it's churning out. Now, it's great for like prompting, and like you said, sort of getting ideas and you know, helping you get started. But the people that you start to recognize it, don't you? I mean, I see stuff, and you see social media posts or blog posts where you think, well, that is a copy and paste from AI. And I've even pulled previous clients up for it because I've seen their stuff going out, and I understand a bit, like you said earlier, Laura, that people's budgets and stuff may, you know, AI is perhaps a cheaper, more affordable option for people, and I absolutely understand that. But when you haven't got the person on the other end that is skilled in like the writing side of it or the design side of it, there's still that kind of risk of what they're putting out almost being damaging. And like I said, I did sort of reach out to this client and just gave them a few suggestions, not trying to pinch for work or, anything like that. I just wanted to help them because I was like, you're going to damage your business because what you're churning out, it didn't make sense. It wasn't it wasn't thinking about the end, the target audience they were going for. And it was overcomplicating, and it was just terrible. And the images that they were using were just terrible. And I just thought that's where people aren't using it to the best advantage. They're just saying, oh, great, I can just churn out stuff quickly, pump it all out. And I think the quality is suffering, and that's going to be interesting. So I think that sort of leads on to the threat. And again, like perhaps me and Laura see this more in our industries. I have definitely lost work to AI. I have had retainer clients that were sort of blog clients that have gone over to using AI technology themselves. And like I said, one of them, I did sort of reach out to, and I understand, but it's if they're not making that end product as good as it can be, then I think it's very frustrating to watch when you know the sort of things that the results you can get for people when you do it, when you're trained in these industries compared to what AI can produce. And it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Laura. Do you think it's affected work? Have you either?
I think it has. I think it has definitely, because I work with a lot of startups, and I think they've seen, like you say, they've gone for a cheaper option. But I'm thinking, if you think long term, I'm worried that it's going to mean that not so many people are going to come into our industry. So I think it might stop people from wanting to be copywriters, from wanting to be designers, because it's like, well, AI can do it, so I'll look at another route for a job, which in turn might make us like premium, because people are then going to go, do you know what? It's not working for me. Who can do it? And I think it's not a flash in the pan. AI is here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere, and it is going to get better. But I do think that the people that can, like yourself, actually personalize things, make things better, it's not just a bog standard copy and paste job, are going to become a bit more of a premium product now. And it's going to be for us to position ourselves like that. So it is going to change our industry. It is changing my industry. The uptake on AI is phenomenal in the design industry, but I do think it's going to take people that actually understand design, understand fonts, understand copy, understand imagery. It's going to make them a premium product. So is it just we ride the wave a little bit and see where it goes? It's frightening, I must admit. Like it's very scary. There's quite a lot of frightened designers out there in the industry at the moment. I don't know, like, how do we handle that? How do we handle change? Because it is happening so fast.
Yeah, I think it's same in the copywriting. I mean, if I use LinkedIn, for example, the conversations on there with copywriters are they sway one way or the other. And I have to admit, there's a lot that I'm seeing that are sort of AI, I'm not going to use it, like, and burying their heads with it, or, very proudly saying they don't want to touch it, they don't want to know. And I understand where they're coming from with that, but then there's the side of me that goes, but in the future, you've got to think about future-proofing yourself, really. And I've had people reach out. I've had a large organization reach out to me and say, can we get your advice on AI and copywriting? Basically, they were talking about how they integrate it into their larger businesses. Do they just have AI? Do they need a copywriter? Do they combine? And basically, it came down to, inevitably, they're going to use both. They're going to want the experienced copywriters and content writers, but they're also going to want to utilize AI. So I think for future-proofing yourself in these industries, if you can, learn the tools, you don't have to, it doesn't stop you being creative, because you don't have to use them to churn things out. You can still put your spin on it, but learning it and understanding it, I think, is going to give you the edge moving forward. I mean, one of my contracts is a very big global organization. They don't use it at all. So when I work with them, like, we don't use it at all. And it's whether that's something that, will, as time moves on. And I think that almost the bigger industries are the way to go for, if you can get your foot in the door with some of the bigger industries as their sort of freelancer or their supplier for certain jobs, because they're still not able to quite adapt as quickly as the smaller entrepreneurs, like the smaller businesses. So I think it's going to be interesting. And I guess it's, moving on to this kind of fear and mindset around it. I mean, what are your thoughts, Danny, on that? Because obviously, like I said, you've got people that want to embrace and people that want to bury their heads and think about the Terminator and panic on it.
Yeah, I mean, as you were both just talking, I was just thinking it reminds me a little bit of photography, because, if you go back 10, 15 years, professional photographers were really the only place you could get a really good kind of family portrait. And these days we can all just snap them with our phones. And a lot of us even have ring lights and softboxes and things at home. So as a professional photographer, they were very much affected. And I've got quite a few friends who are photographers. They were very much affected by the development of digital cameras and the fact that we've all now got camera phones. But there is still a market for them, because there are certain types of images that professionals can achieve that you are not going to achieve at home. You're not going to achieve with a mobile phone. So I think you're right, what you were saying, Laura, being about understanding it in terms of being able to position yourself, because the more you understand what AI can and can't do, the more you can position yourself as the expert that can do all the stuff that AI can't do. And that may be that you're using AI as part of what you do in order to make your work quicker, in order to be more efficient. But there's something that you offer that AI cannot offer. And I think it is about understanding it. I think if you just kind of bury your head in the sand and you go, I'm not going to know anything about this, you are almost doing yourself a bit of a disservice, because it's like, well, how do you know what you offer that's different if you don't know anything about it? But if you understand it enough to be able to go, okay, well, these are things that AI can do and can't do yet. These are things that I can do that actually make me unique. And it's that whole kind of USP thing. You almost need to look at it like we would have looked at in the past around how are we different to other businesses. We also kind of now need to say, well, how am I different to the AI tools that are out there that makes me something that you actually are going to benefit from? In terms of fear of change is something that is, something we deal with a lot. Some people like change, embrace change, find it exciting. Some people just like things to be a lot more predictable. And part of it is knowing which one of those you are. If you're someone that doesn't like change, you're probably not going to be super excited about AI, and that's okay. But change is going to happen. We can't stop it. It's one of those inevitable things in life. So it's that whole thing of like, focus on what you can control. You cannot stop AI. Like, it is going to happen. Like you said, Laura, like, it's probably going to be around. It's not going to go away. So if you're focusing on trying to avoid it, you're creating yourself potentially a lot more problems. Whereas if you try to not have to necessarily embrace it and go full on, but just accept that it is something that's happening And a lot of the time that fear comes from not knowing and not understanding. So just educating yourself a little bit more, whether that's through doing research or talking to people that are using the tools and just understanding a little bit more about what AI actually is and what is out there, then I think some of that fear eases because you've got a better understanding, rather than just going, this sounds really scary, so I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's that knowledge is power, isn't it? At the end of the day, you know, the more you know, the more you understand, and the better it is for your client, you know, in your business. If you've got a knowledge of it, even if you don't want to touch it, you don't want to use it, just having that knowledge will enhance your client experience anyway. And it's in our day-to-day life. And, you know, we've already been using AI, you know, without us really knowing it. And it's just making sure that you don't need to be ahead of the trend. You don't need to know the latest things that are coming out, but you need to know enough that, you know, you can talk your client through it. You can, like you say, explain why you're better, why you're different. You know, it's a tool at the end of the day. What you give it, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it at the same way. It's never going to take your personality. It's never going to make mistakes. And I think in some ways that's what makes us human, that we make mistakes. So you're going to be able to spot it a mile off. At the moment, the imagery is so obvious, but that's going to get better. That is going to get stronger. It is going to get better. Knowing and predicting trends, it's going to get better at doing that. But if you can integrate it, if you can enhance it, if you can bring it into your system, I think you're going to be ahead of the market. Because I know some of the older graphic designers are fuming about it. I've spoke to a few recently who are just not happy. It's not going to take on, it's not being part of my business. I've never needed it before. Why do I need it now? And I think that's such a real negative attitude. You know, computer systems update all the time. So why are you not updating your skills in your toolbox? I think going against it is a real negative attitude. And I think it's going to be, you know, the worst thing you can do for your business. It's terrible that some people are so anti it. I think we've got to start controlling it. Maybe we need to make it obvious that this is AI. You know, maybe we need to put a symbol on imagery and let everyone know. I don't think we should, you know, push it off as that we've designed it or we've written it. I think we need to make it obvious that actually this was AI generated. Maybe needs to be some industry rules or regulations there. But I do
similar with affiliate. You know, you have to, if you're doing something for an ad which is promoting something, you know, I have it on my stuff when there's an affiliate link in the content I've created, and a similar thing. Like you've said, it could be like, oh, this is, you know, AI generated to an extent, I guess, as well, because it depends how much. And I guess that's where the blurred lines will come, won't it? Because it's how much is, you know, you're just sparking it for ideas and how much is just literally come from AI.
Yeah, would you worry about telling people that actually you've created something from AI? Would you be willing to put in, like, you know, some sort of watermark on, you know, your imagery or on some copy or something? I suppose
it depends. Like I say, it depends on the amount. I mean, I don't tend to use it to create a whole piece of content or anything like that. And I've certainly, because it doesn't have that creativity and it's very samey. So it's definitely, even if it's, you know, comes up with a sentence, I think that's good, I'll just reword it. So I think, and that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because then I'm like, well, it's given me the thought process, but then I've adapted it and turned it into something, you know, in the tone of the client or for the audience, etc. So yeah, it's I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I'm, you know, quite open and honest. I explore AI tools and I use them to help me with certain elements of my business. I suppose it will just, there will be a level of it, won't it? You know, and you do have people that are just churning out constant AI generated stuff. And it's those that I think are the danger, because it's not always accurate as well. So quite a lot of the stuff out there, you're like, are we getting to the point where you can't, not that you could trust the internet beforehand, but can you trust it now? Like some of the stuff you read, you're like, and is it going to end up, you know, it will never be accurate because the content it's producing is inaccurate, and then it's going to filter back in and pull from content out there, which is AI generated, and then that's going to be wrong. So it's an interesting, I've kind of led away from your original sort of question there on whether we should watermark AI, you know, make a point there. But I think that's going to be the problem, that it's going to be so hard to police because it's going to be such a mash of stuff eventually.
But I suppose it's a bit like, you know, like clothing and jewelry and things, you know, mass produced stuff you can spot, but then there's still that market for the handmade, you know, the authentic. And I do feel at the moment, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of life at the moment is going back to traditional ways of doing things. So traditional ways like processed food at the moment, everyone's anti it but that's mass produced. Everyone's going back to natural cooking and baking and stuff. And I'm thinking, well, you know, the industry might go whoop with AI for a while, and, you know, maybe a few years, it's going to be full there. But then I think it's going to start coming back to, actually, I can spot that logo's been made by AI because it's rubbish at the moment. You can spot them a mile off. The same with, you can spot logos from Fiverr, you know, the actual people that are willing to invest in their brand and want to make something unique and that isn't, are coming to us graphic designers still to have their logos created, to have their brand created. And I'm thinking, is AI going to flood the market so much in the next few years that it's going to be, everyone's going to be jumping on it? And do I just sit and just keep going and wait for it to come back down to, actually, you know what, everyone looks the same, everyone's sounding the same, we need a brand designer to make us stand out? So that's my way of thinking at the moment. I'm thinking, go on, everyone go, because you're all gonna look the same, you're all gonna look the same, have the same colors, you're all going to be the same styled, because AI can't give you personality. AI can't give you uniqueness. Like you say, it just treasures what's on the web at the moment, and it's just going to bring you out exactly the same as what's there and what every other business is doing. Because I've tried it a few times. I've been on, you know, chat, and I've like, you know what, let's see what it would bring up for my client. And it's been awful. So I'm trying, I'm trying to find the good in AI. I'm trying to keep that, but I'm also realizing there's a lot of bad stuff out there. And I am worried for a few colleagues that aren't willing to adapt. And it's that adapting, Danny. How do we get over that kind of, you know, my business I've built up is maybe in jeopardy a bit. It's, you know, I'm going to lose a bit of confidence maybe here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, AI is something that's still relatively new, and we're still in a learning process, you know, so we're talking about things like regulations and all that. It's something that, you know, as a society, as a world, we're still figuring all that out because it's still relatively new. But if you think, you know, the internet is not that old, you know, and there's been a lot of learning around that, and what, you know, where we need to have certain regulations in place, where we need to have things like firewalls, you know, at the beginning, people weren't aware of that, and there would have been a lot of fear around that. I mean, I remember working with people when I was, you know, starting out and doing kind of part-time jobs and things, who did everything on paper. And the idea of putting things onto a computer database was like, oh, no, I always do things by paper, or they always do their accounts by. I mean, my mum, if she could still do her self-assessment on paper, she would happily do it on paper. And I'm like, come on, mum, we can do this. It's just, you know, people are like what they used to. Most people don't want to change things. If they've got a system that works for them, they like to stick to it because they know and understand it. And that's okay, but you're effectively making life harder for yourself. So, you know, there are things that you can be stubborn about, and if you want to do it, you can do that, but you're probably going to cause yourself more problems in the future, because you'll get to a point where you will have to use it in some way, because that's just what happens. Look at how we are with technology these days. You know, who hasn't got a computer or a laptop or something, or a smartphone in their house? Pretty much no one these days. You know, most of us all have that. We use the internet all the time. You know, how many people use some kind of Alexa device, or, you know, a Google Home or whatever? We are using AI-based things anyway in our lives. You know, people have got smart robovacs that just do the vacuuming for them. There's a lot of benefits to this technology developing that we like and take advantage of. How many people would like to live without electricity in their homes now? You know, we just take that for granted because we're used to it. So, you know, 50 years time, we're going to have developed and things will be different. So it's that thing, isn't it? You either kind of get on board with it and you go, okay, things are changing and I'm going to kind of accept that I'm going to need to change a little bit to go with it. Or you go, no, I'm stubborn and I'm not going to change. But there's probably going to come a point in the future where you're going to be forced to a degree to change because things will just be happening in different ways. And if you don't keep up with that to a degree, then are you going to effectively kind of move yourself out of the market? Because, you know, will people want to work with you using the old systems that you're currently using? You know, I mean, graphic designers and copywriters use technology, right? That technology didn't exist maybe 20 years ago. So, you know, the way that you are doing things now, people that were doing design and writing and things in the, you know, years ago wouldn't have been using those tools. People have had to learn and adapt or go into different industries. So it's like, what do you want? You know, if AI and you're like, I don't want to touch it, that's fine, but it's a decision you're making. And are you willing to kind of die on that decision and potentially not be in your industry in 20 years time or 10 years time? And if you're happy with that because you really don't want to go near it, that's okay. But I think it is that understanding that if you decide not to learn and adapt, you will be forced to adapt at some point, because that's just how the world works. You know, we keep evolving and changing and learning.
Yeah, it was interesting because I mean, it makes me instantly think of Blockbuster. You know, we used to go and get your videos from Blockbuster, and you know that kind of, as you say, the internet came along, and then streaming came along, and things like Netflix came along, and you know, suddenly why would we leave the house to go and pick up a video? We don't, you know, certainly not a video anymore, is it? But you know, we just don't do that. And I watched an interesting talk with the Financial Times, and they were interviewing, you know, big CEOs of big corporate companies and talking about the fears of, you know, employees feeling like they're going to be, you know, out of jobs because of AI. And although they were sort of arguing that that wasn't going to be the case, there was definitely talk of, you know, sunrise and sunset. So there's, you know, there's sunrise on new jobs, new opportunities, and the sun will set on, you know, certain jobs. And like we talk about copywriting, for example, there may be that the traditional copywriter will, I don't think it will go completely, but there will certainly be less demand. But there'll be the sunrise on like the copywriters that, you know how to utilize AI tools and can adapt and grow, or have, you know, a new way of doing things. So I think it's that evolving, isn't it? I think like we've all said, I think throughout this conversation, like if you're not evolving, if you're not growing and adapting, I think you will get left behind. And that's when your business is most likely to be in danger. And it is scary, but at the same time, like, as you quite rightly said, Danny, a lot of the stuff we use now wasn't available. You know, I'll go onto Canva and knock up all the, you know, stuff for that, and that's affected designers and graphics over the years. And I don't think twice to just go and do it. So
well, Canva's only been out a few years, hasn't it, really?
Yeah.
And everybody uses it now. But yeah, it is that evolving. It is, especially being an older graphic designer, you know, I'm not old, but, you know, I am an older graphic designer. You do think, crikey, they're going to come out, the next batch is coming out of university with all this AI knowledge. They're going to have jumped on it. And so I need to now position myself differently. But also I need to be a sponge. I need to be taking that information on. I need to be involved in the conversation with it. Else, yeah, I am going to end up being a fossil. And I think that's a worrying thing. You know, it's not only am I going to run a business, look after a family, I've now got to go and learn a whole new way. But in some ways that excites me, because it's like, God, this is fresh, this is new. Yeah. I have got big concerns about some of the imagery. You know, they can make any image now. That is a big concern for me. I am concerned that we're not going to be able to trust any image that we see in the future. You know, we've already seen the funny ones of what they've put Trump doing, you know, and you can obviously tell at the moment, but give it a year, you're not going to be able to spot what's an AI. There's that thing where they've got someone's daughter from all the images that the parents had put out on social media, and they made her older, and they got her voice, and they put her up on screen talking to her mum and dad as a 20-year-old. And that scares the hell out of me as a mom, let alone as a designer. And I just think, what's going to happen for my children? But then I'm sure there's worries my parents had about me growing up as a, thinking, God, this world, this internet, you're going to have an internet in your pocket. They're going to be able, never going to look in a Reader's Digest book in your life because you've got this little pocket computer. And I'm sure my parents had the similar worries. And I do worry that, the internet is going to get flooded with even more lies, and it's teaching my children to be able to decipher what is true and what isn't. Is it going to come to a stage where we're just not going to really look at the internet much because it's all going to be AI generated, and it's all going to be...
That's quite likely. I mean, I think like that. I think, oh, I look at this AI, as soon as I recognize the AI on there, I can't be bothered to read that. And I think that it will go full circle, because you go, wow, not really interested in reading all that. So I'm going to, see, like, look out the window maybe, rather than on the phone or something like that. And I think there will be a bit of a movement again, away from technology, because it feels so heavily like it's sort of coming in around us now. So I think it's going to be really interesting moving forward. So just to kind of wrap things up, what are your thoughts on, in your own businesses? Are you thinking about, are you going to embrace it, try it, play with it, not too worried at the moment? What are your thoughts? Danny, should start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I said, there's definitely more that I could be using. So I think it's about learning kind of steadily. I don't feel like I'm in any rush. Learning things as they come up, using some of the tools that are beneficial and can make life a bit more efficient for me. But it's not a priority, because most of my work is working, face-to-face, one-to-one, or either online or in person with clients or in groups. And most of my work comes to me through recommendations and referrals. So a lot of what I do is personal interaction with people, and AI doesn't have a huge role in that. So it's something that I wouldn't say I'm scared of it as a thing in general, but I definitely understand some of the concerns that Laura raised. And I think, it reminds me of things like magazines. We've been very aware now that so many photos are retouched, and they're not realistic images. And that's something that wasn't really talked about when I was a kid, but over the last few years has been something that we've talked about a lot more, and there's been campaigns to use, real images of people and all that kind of thing. So I think it's the same kind of thing with AI. It's that, one, the awareness that actually what you're seeing may not be a real image, and it may be, produced by AI, and where are the kind of regulations, and how is that going to evolve? And none of us really know what that's going to look like yet. But I think for me, it's about, understanding it a little bit, seeing where the tools are that I can use, but it's certainly not going to play kind of a big role, I don't think, in my business at the moment.
What about you, Laura?
Actually, what Danny's saying, I used to work for a world-renowned makeup company, and I have sat and watched the retouchers retouching photography, and never believe anything any makeup business ever says, because I've sat there, I've been on the photo shoots, so I know exactly what the model used to look like. So yeah, I think for my business, it's a help. It's a real good help. It's as a solopreneur, it's brilliant in like the admin side for me. As a graphic designer, I'm gonna have to really start learning a hell of a lot about it, and keep up with it, because those graphic designers that aren't are going to be left behind. So for my industry, it's pretty huge at the moment. I think it's going to be a big change in the next year, so I'm going to have to try and stay on top of it. So for me, it's I've got a lot of learning to do. Whether I'm going to bring it into my design is a different matter. I think I need to learn about it. I think I need to be knowledgeable about it. But whether it's going to change the way I do my designing, I doubt it. I don't think it will. I think it will help maybe with the strategy more, but it's not going to really change how I design a brand and a logo. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting for me. AI is. I'm eager. I'm looking forward to it, but I am that apprehensive and nervous about it as well. So yeah, double-edged sword for me a bit. What about you, Laura?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, I've definitely felt the impact, like I said earlier, and I have sort of had to adapt. I have, like I explained, like this curiosity in me that I love to play with these things. So from, a lot of my YouTube content is now looking at these tools and reviewing them. And from that point of view, I'm quite excited. From a business point of view, I think it's, learning to use it for the side of promoting yourself and, using it to the advantage that it has to help you, get ahead with tasks and quicken up processes. From a creative writing point of view, then, other than sparking a few ideas or, that side of thing, I love writing for the reason of writing. So that will stay, but I'm aware that I can use it to quicken up other processes. And I think as well, just thinking about for people in our industry, specifically like mine and Laura's, like if you're struggling or you're feeling, the impact, is look at who your audience is. So my audience at the time was small sort of entrepreneurs. And I think we are more likely to lean on these tools because it is a way to sort of affordably do certain tasks. Whereas bigger companies, they're still, they've got so much to do. You go in, just look at the NHS, for example. I mean, their computer systems, like these places take so long to advance. I think moving into those kind of bigger, targeting sort of bigger audiences like that could be helpful. And just remembering, although, we probably see a lot of it because of the way we're, the businesses we're in, I still talk to people that have no clue about it. They've never touched ChatGPT, don't even know what I mean when I say it. So there is still a whole world out there that, of people and businesses that will happily use our services and not have a clue or interest in AI. So I think it's like we've just said, it's just learning and adapting, doing what's best for you. I would definitely recommend not falling too far behind on it and just getting familiar with it and not burying your head. I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think just really leaning into your belief and confidence in what you do, because yes, AI is there and it's good to know about it and to bring it in where you can, but also, remembering that what you do is unique and, AI can never replace you and no other person can replace you. And I think, as a small business or an entrepreneur particularly, it's really important to be able to identify, what makes you unique and what makes you special, and just remind yourself of those things, because it's easy to doubt yourself and to start thinking, oh, AI is going to replace me. But the connection that you have, it's not just the work you do for your clients, it's the support that you give them, it's the interactions that you have around the work, it's that belief that they have that they've got someone who's got their back, who they can trust to do the work. So I think it's all of those things are really valuable, and remembering that is something that you bring. It's not just the finished piece of work that you're sending over as a designer or a copywriter or whatever you do. It's all of the relationship that you build throughout that process as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gotta keep on playing with it, I guess, and just see how the world goes. It's going to be interesting. I feel like we should put a date in the calendar for a year's time and 5 years time and see how.
Yeah, well, next month my AI is turning up to do this chat, not me.
Yeah, that's it. We're just going to put our feet up now.